Thanks so much to everyone joining us here at this session of Globe Summit 2024. This afternoon, we're thrilled to be talking about transportation. You can read all of the Globe's great journalism at globe.com and thoughtful opinion journalism, including a weekly transportation-focused newsletter at globe.com/opinion. But most of all, we're thrilled to be joined by Phillip Eng, the general manager of the MBTA. Welcome, GM.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
How did you get to this interview today?
Oh, we took the green light.
And was it on time?
Absolutely was on time. Once we got down to the station, it was right there, and we were here in literally minutes.
Let's dig right in. The T is in the midst of a vast track repair and replacement project. And as a rider, I've felt both the profound inconvenience of the slow shuttle buses, as well as the wonder of trains moving much faster over areas that had previously gone at a snail's pace. For people who aren't familiar, would you give us a quick summary of what tracks were like when you started in April of last year, where we are in the track fixing journey, and when exactly the benighted slow zones of the system will be gone?
Absolutely. So when I first started, even before I started, the system had faced a system-wide slowdown. And that was because of the conditions of the track. Actually, the information that we had regarding conditions and the repairs. And really the slowdowns, which are generally meant to be a temporary speed restriction, or system-wide, affecting every mode along all of our lines in terms of green, red, blue, and orange. And the numbers of the speed restrictions, as we would tackle them in the first, I'd say, 3 to 4 months, we'd knock off a couple, and then we'd see a couple pop up. And the challenge was the conditions were such a state that you couldn't keep up with the amount of repairs that had to be done. Trying to do the work in the overnight periods was just too short of a window of just a few hours, and then needing to have service up and running the next morning. So in November of last year, we launched the track improvement program, and that was historic, that was monumental, whereby we laid out a schedule to be done by the end of this year, 2024, eliminating all of the speed restrictions that were known to date, and then to be able to outline that schedule to the public so they knew what to expect. You referenced the buses. Alternative service is vital to us being able to shut down the system systematically in certain sections. But we also know, as we see how buses are traveling, when they get caught up in the same traffic as other vehicles, we know that's just why the subway system is so vital to the whole multimodal travel. The buses are important to give people choices, but what we've promised and we're delivering now is with each one of these diversions, we're giving them the results that they've been waiting for. So even though it's been some short-term pains, short-term changes in how they travel, we're fulfilling our commitment to them and lifting the restrictions. Today, as we stand, there's 57 restrictions in the system. Only 6% of the system is restricted. We're in the midst of a few days left on the red line. Braintree branch, we will open on Monday, and we will be eliminating 36 speed restrictions along that corridor. Come Monday morning, we will probably be around only 30 restrictions left in the system. October is all about orange line, back to red line in November, and then December we finish it off with the green line. And then at that point, it's maintenance, it's inspections, it's corrective repairs that are timely, and that safe, reliable service that the public's been waiting for.
And just to simplify even further for folks who don't know, when you say 30 restrictions left after this closure opens, it means that there are sections of track that something is funky with the track so that a train has to go slower to safely go over that section?
Yes, absolutely. It could be a number of deteriorated ties, the wooden ties that are used to secure the rails. It could be rails that have some deformity or wear over the years. It could be a switch. It could be any and one number of those components or a combination of those components that are requiring slowing down the trains to enable them to still run and move people, but ensuring that if there were an incident, everyone would be safe. But that is not where we want to be. We want to be where, today, our blue line, restriction-free from end to end. The trips are now every 4 minutes or better sometimes. And we're running more service on the blue line today than we ran in 2019. And that's where it is. It's about making our infrastructure more sound, more resilient, and built for the future. It's the tracks. Signals are next. We've been working on power, the train cars that we've been receiving. All of these go hand in hand with the workforce that we've been hiring as well.
I want to follow up on something you just said. You know, this week alone, we've seen delays due to disabled trains, due to signal problems, due to switch problems, and due to power problems. To reduce those inconveniences that riders face, will there be big shutdowns in the years ahead for, say, fixing signals or for, say, fixing the power system?
Well, I would say there are going to be times where a shutdown similar to what we've done may be appropriate. But I also want to say that we're going to really challenge ourselves to do things differently. In the past, we tried to do the work on the overnights, and there are times where the overnights will be perfect for inspections, minor repairs, very quick fixes. But then we're going to look at weekend work. We're going to look at early access. And where the work that needs to be done fits within those windows, we will use that. But going forward, I don't envision having those types of long diversions where we're impacting people. If we need to, we'll make sure we communicate it, because the best thing that we're doing, these diversions have allowed us to be more efficient, more effective, and actually do more than just the speed restrictions. We're doing significant state of good repair on top of that, thereby giving us more longer-term reliability. We're going to look at things like single tracking, where we can run trains on one track while we do work on the other track. That may be supplemented with buses, but that could greatly reduce the number of buses and allow people to stay on the trains, because we know we can move more people on trains than we can on buses.
I want to sort of more broadly look forward. You've spoken about better, faster, more reliable service starting a virtuous cycle. And I'm curious, what does that mean?
It means when you need to use public transportation, you know you can use it without having to think, will it get me to my destination on time and safely? It means if you have even more than one seat, more than one mode, you can...
If you're going from the bus to the train.
You can safely know that when you exit one, the next one will be a matter of minutes. My trip today, I get on Blue Line, I get off at Government Center, literally go upstairs, and almost every day there's a Green Line train waiting there, and if I happen to just miss one, literally there's another one in a minute or two. That is where it's more of a seamless trip. You're not as concerned about making those transfers. When I first started, Orange Line, I think, was 12-minute headways, meaning if you miss a train on Orange Line, you're waiting 12 minutes. There's nothing more frustrating than missing a train and then having to wait that long. But when it's really literally the connections are smooth and the connections are well and more frequent, I think it takes away the frustrations that the riders were feeling, and it also makes sure that it enables the folks to want to use the system, know that they can, and that it's reliable.
We're at the Harvard Club, and perhaps it's impolite to talk about money or politics, so I apologize for the next two questions. It's a sometimes thankless job you have, and I'm curious, do you feel like Governor Maura Healey has had your back since she hired you?
100%
How?
has had my back.
How?
In fact, even before I took the role, the discussions were about transportation is vital, transportation is a priority, and the workforce was even a priority before I took on this role. The budget that we had in 2024 had good money in there that enabled us to actually start building the foundation for longer-term success. Their proposals, along with the House and Senate, have given us stability through 2025. And right now, I know we're in the midst of a lot of discussion, an important discussion, on how to best fund transportation, not just the MBTA, but transportation as a whole, knowing that we are economic generators and we affect people's quality of life in a positive way when transportation is sound and viable. Every step of the way that I've needed support, Healey Driscoll administration has been able to push those things along to help me, give me the support. This track program has been instrumental, that they have fully supported and drove us to push ourselves to be even better. And that's where it's really exciting to be a part of this, this administration and serving the Commonwealth, because I know how important this transportation service is. And as we demonstrate the ability to deliver, I fully believe that there will be opportunities to find how to better fund transportation, as well as their real strong leaning in with regard to pursuing every federal dollar. We just recently won a US DOT grant, $472 million for our North Station Drill 1 bridge project, and that's because of the forward-leaning position of the administration, pushing us to be even better, making sure our applications are strong. And I have to thank my team at MBTA as well, the congressional delegation, for the support of all those letters. But we're rebuilding the team because of what the administration has done with regards to the $20 million we had in our 24 capital program. And that little bit of seed money is proving benefits right now as we speak, because all of that hiring has enabled us to start doing more work in-house. It has enabled us to have more reliable service, not only on subways, but on buses, on the paratransit. All of the modes where we started to hire, having more operators, more motor persons, has enabled us to have more reliable trips, because as we have better infrastructure, now our schedules are better adhered to, and the service can start to actually run on the cycles that people expect. And then once you have more of that certainty, we believe people will come back and ridership will come back, and that's the key.
If I'm distilling down something you said, I want to make sure I'm hearing this right. As you demonstrate more success in creating a more reliable trip for riders, there is then more political support for the T? Am I distilling it down correctly? And it becomes another virtuous cycle?
I would like to say, as we demonstrate the ability to deliver, it makes it easier to support our needs, because my commitment is to show that we could deliver projects, we could deliver them on time, we could deliver them with quality, and we could manage our budgets well. I think it's a lot harder to invest knowing there's so many competing needs when the dollars are not being well spent, when projects are late. And we have a lot of things that we're still reviewing, but we are starting to show that we can. Even the grant that we just won from USDOT, these are highly competitive across the country. You don't win those grants if you don't demonstrate that you have that project ready to go and that you've addressed the environmental issues. And the key is, they award them to not only the projects that have the most merit regarding the grant process, but the ability of the agency to deliver.
I want to talk about money. If the MBTA's budget were a family's this year, it would be as if they drained their emergency savings, their retirement accounts, brought the change under the couch cushions to the bank, and still only managed to barely pay the bills this year. Is that fair?
Well, we are a family. I like to call us a family. And that's one of the great things, because we're in it together. We have a balanced budget for fiscal year 25. I mentioned the federal government. It's one thing where within the family we've taken care of ourselves. We do know we need to go to maybe a bigger family member, because we're not the only transit agency in the country that is facing the same challenge with regards to ridership, revenue, and the fiscal cliff. This is across all the agencies.
Sorry to interrupt, but for people who don't know, describe what this fiscal cliff is and how you will have the T face it without falling over.
Well, right now, our pro forma, as we looked at fiscal year 26, and we presented this to our MBTA board, we're looking at a need of about $700 million to cover our operating costs.
And need means that the expected revenues, the incoming money, will be $700 million less than what you expect to spend?
Yes. Our spend for operating versus revenues they're being brought in, that's what we're looking at. You referenced the, using our rainy day fund for 25, which we have. But my challenge right now, my marching orders to the team is, let's sharpen our pencils. Let's look at how we become more efficient. How do we become more effective? Let's demonstrate that we're a sound investment, and let's continue to deliver the results that the public needs, because we have seen where we were a few years ago when we were not investing in transportation, when we were not investing in our workforce, and that's not a place we want to go back to. At the same time, my goal, and I plan to, is to continue dialogue with Washington, with the White House, with the USDOT, with FRA, with FTA, because, again, it's not just MBTA that is facing this deficit. There is some discussion right now about legislation that would allow federal dollars to be used differently to help offset operating needs. And that's positive because, again, transportation not just in Boston and Massachusetts, but across the country, is facing this. And through those dialogues that we're having in DC and with our sister agencies, we're all in this together, and we're going to continue to push, deliver better service, reliable service, and make sound investments.
You said you want your team to sharpen their pencils. Does that include the prospect of raising fares?
Right now, we are looking at trying to make sure what we're ready to deliver and need to deliver is done most effectively, most efficiently. I'll use the track program, for example. When we were trying to do this work before in the overnights, we would literally get maybe 2 hours of work actually on the track to do any work. When you're doing that, you're actually having full shifts, and you're inefficient, and you're paying for a full shift and getting 2 hours. Right now, with the diversions, 1 day of a full day diversion we've analyzed is equal to 90 days had we tried to do it at night. Take those days that we've done through this track program, we've done nearly, or actually over 40 years of work had we tried to do it in the old traditional way. That is being efficient, that's using our dollars better, and that's delivering more results and better results in a shorter window. So some of the things that we look at is how have we spent money before? How are we designing things that are over-designed, custom designed? Are we designing things that we can't maintain properly? Some of these things look great on opening day, but if you can't get replacement parts, what we need is to make sure the public knows we're going to give them safe, reliable, state-of-the-art, modern transportation systems, stations, but things that we can maintain with our workforce, things that are more sustainable, and things that actually at the end of the day could cost less. Actually, as we improve our system, we can better plan work. It's not as much the unplanned responses, which we still have. We know those challenges exist. But if you eliminate and minimize the unplanned instances, you can actually better schedule and manage hours, expenditures, and then really over time, we will see we're driving operating costs down. I did that in my prior role, and I know we could do that here.
I'm just not sure I heard an answer on the fare question. Are fare increases on the table?
Fare increases and fare in general is something that always is discussed. Right now, we just went through the income eligible fares where we actually made it more affordable. But I know as part of the transportation task force, those are the things that they'll have to look at. I think from a perspective, we always have to look at the generation of fares, the collection of fares, and just to make sure that every revenue dollar available is investigated, because I think all of it together is a key component to funding the T. At the same time, I also know you cannot fund the T on the backs of our riders and the public. No agency has been able to do that, and it quite frankly would be unaffordable if we tried to fund the T strictly on fares.
So this commission is looking into fare increases, or?
They are reviewing across the board all of the different things. This morning at our board meeting, we had Warren McGarrigle, who is a member of APTA. He talked about how the revenue across different properties are in comparison to the operating costs. One of the things that we asked Ward to come back with us is to explain to us the different parallels. Certain entities actually had a higher fare box revenue supporting operating, and others were lower. We were probably in the middle, around 45%, if I recall, of our fares covering this. Now, that was an older number, but that's important to see how different entities, I know in my prior agency, they do have fare hikes every few years. That is something that has been embedded in their practice, and those are the things that we have to look at. At the same time, again, you know, what we are trying to do is make sure it's safe, reliable, and affordable. So even if those discussions are had, it has to be, you know, what is affordable for folks, given the rising cost of everything in today's age.
We have less than a minute left, so I want to ask you, in your really tough job, what do you do to unwind?
Well, crazy or not, I enjoy all the things that keep me busy during the workday, and they keep me busy in the off hours too. At the same time, I think it's been noted in some of my prior discussions, I just enjoy kicking back a little bit. I enjoy watching sports, and Josh, as we once had, I enjoy having, you know, a draft beer or two once in a while. And I just recently brewed my first 5-gallon batch in Boston, so maybe people can come over and try it out with me.
That's great. Well, I so much appreciate your time, Mr. General Manager. Thank you so much for joining us here at Globe Summit 2024. Thanks to everyone at home and at work who's been watching, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Josh.